Well, hello everybody and welcome back here on Eiersholt. I'm just taking in a little bit of the scenery here. This early morning in midsummer, although it's 7 o'clock in the morning, it's already 16 degrees and we've been having some really warm, scorching days here in the middle of summer. So everything's growing well. I'm just out checking on the fields because things are growing. It's standing fine, but if we now pull out our ground measurement tool here and have a look, we can see that the soil is down to 7% moisture. So I'm getting a little bit concerned that the weather is almost too good. We might actually start seeing some drought. And obviously different types of grain have different sensitivities of drought when we play with seasons. I think most of the grains down here are reasonably okay. They have a moderate tolerance to drought, but the potatoes could get pretty hard hit if that carries on for a long period. So I was just down checking on our barley field here, and obviously we have over here on the other side is the field that we bought this year. This is not the one we've leased, it's the one we bought. This is where we're growing millet. It's obviously not quite as advanced in terms of growth, but I'm pretty sure the ground moisture is about the same, 7%. So I don't think there's much we can do about it, but obviously it's good to know and keep an eye on these things, so that if it does look like we're going to have a failed harvest of potatoes, for example, we might have to be prepared to buy in some additional stuff for mixing pig food later on in the year. But apart from that, it's been a little while. It was very early summer when I did the last episode, and I have done a couple of things on the farm in between episodes here. The main thing was to use up some of the digest data from our BGA plant and ran that out on the grass fields to give them a good dose and get them nice and fertilized. And then we've been running herbicide on fields to try and kill off some of the weeds. I still don't really know how much they impact everything. I'm still toying with the idea of leaving off herbicide. It does cost a fair bit, but we have done it this year. So I have made one other investment on the farm. Animals are doing well. As you can see, we almost have 300,000 euros, and that's after the investments I've made that I'll show you today. And that's because we've been selling milk as well. So in addition to spending money on herbicide, we have been spending money on something else just down here. This little machine. Now it's deliberately sitting down here because obviously we have our silos with grain storage right here. And this is the seed mixer. So as you can see, I have mixed the first batch here. So we still got plenty of herbicide for the coating on one side, and it's now out of seed, out of grain to mix seed, and we have 21,000 liters of seed sitting here. Obviously in the longer run that will save us some money instead of having to go out and buy it. So it's kind of a seed cleaner that will allow us to reuse some of our own grain to make seed from, at least for the time being. So that's one of the more significant investments that I've made. That was about 45,000. I did have to cut down a tree right there on the corner with the workshop and put down a little bit of gravel as well to make space, but I think it's a good position for it. It's relatively easy to get to, and it's close to where we are actually storing the seeds. The next investment is sitting over here in this shed. See if I get the right door the first time around. It should be right around here. I missed it by one. Anyway, here it is. It is an IT runner trailer. with a hook lift. Now we obviously already bought a truck with a hook lift as well, and so it's quite deliberate that I also got the trailer, so that we can basically carry more with that truck in tandem. And if we just head up to the shed where we are storing the hook lift attachments, I can show you that we got a couple of extra things to hook onto our truck and our trailer. So this shed here is now filling up a bit more. So first of all, we got 2 of these very sizable grain containers, and that is the setup that really drove me to buy the trailer, because this means as we are starting to approach harvest, we can run the truck with these 2 on. I think they take about 40,000 each, so we can carry 80,000 liters of grain. I have tested, and the auger on our Quincas trailer just reaches the top. You have to be a bit careful when you unload into them, but it can be done. We have our dump trailer that we used to run manure with, that's still here. And then finally we got a trailer here. This was the one I used to run some digestate up from the BGA and down to the fields where we were putting slurry onto the ground. And that pretty much summarizes all the changes that's been happening. Summer is in some ways a bit of a quiet period. We do have some grass fields that have sort of entered the first stage of readiness for cutting, but to be honest, I think we're gonna leave them for now and take them on the other side of harvest. We do have another 16,000 liters of milk, so given that it's midsummer, we're still waiting for growth. I suspect that we might be ready to start harvest the coming day in this episode. But for now, let's just get some milk delivered and see what that does to our financial situation. Because I would like to make an investment today if we can afford. I'm not 100% sure whether we will get enough money from the milk. We'll just park over here by our lovely new seed maker. So we're just getting a pallet fork onto our massey so we can get some twine loaded onto our baler. It's one of those smaller jobs here in midsummer that we can get done, so things are a bit ready for harvest time. I feel like I don't want to jinx it and we find that either the drought or the conditions haven't been right enough to bring us into harvest in late summer. It could be early autumn before we get the chance, but I'm kind of hoping a couple of the fields will be ready very soon. So I am gonna start getting the baler ready at least, because we have our twine. This is the baler add-on mod that basically now mandates that all of our balers will need twine for the square baler here. It looks like we can sell our milk now as well. And that's milk unloading, so we'll see how much we make. Once again, it looks like our milk is fetching a very good price, but the investment I'm considering making is large, and it would take us down to very little money. We do have enough to do it, so I think we are going to, even if it means that we are going to be very low on money for a little while we get harvest underway. We got all the supplies we need in, so we should be good to go, and we shouldn't need an awful lot of money. But first, we'll get the truck back, we'll get the baler loaded on twine, and then we'll be heading down to the dealership. So we're pulling out the 8R John Deere to get the baler mounted onto. It's a large machine, but basically all of our tractors are going to be committed during harvest. We got to run the Quincas auger wagon. We got to run 2 sets of grain trailers. We got to run a baler, and ideally we want to use our auto stacker to start loading up some bales as well. Now that we got the hook lift set up with a high capacity, we might use the other truck and flatbed to start loading bales up a bit quicker than we did in the previous year. First of all, we'll get our own shed filled up, and then any surplus we are going to be selling off up at the heating plant, basically because that one shed full is definitely more than enough. We still have over 100 bales left, and that's after selling off at least 100 as well. But we are going to get this twine loaded on to our baler here. So obviously this is a simpler modification. There isn't a sort of nice animation to go with the baler. It's just a matter of getting it loaded on. So as you can see, we are now running twine as a supply into the baler, and that will then allow it to carry on baling. I don't know how many it will create on the 8,400 whatever units that is of twine that we now got in there, but we got 2 pallet loads in total, so we should have plenty to keep us going through harvest. The question is whether I can get away with leaving it outside. We got dry weather forecast for quite a bit, I think. Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, so it's overcast but warm for a good while. Today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even a bit of sun. And then up towards Saturday, that's late summer, just turning into early autumn. It looks like we might start to get some rain, so I'm really hoping that we will be able to get harvest started during late summer, at least for some of the fields, because obviously that will give us a head start. We do have 2 combines now to run, so it will enable us to cover a good amount of fields fairly quickly. So I might be chancing it here, but looking up, it looks nice and clear. So we got twine. I'm wondering whether we should load that up on the flatbed of the pickup truck so that it'll be ready to bring out into the field should we need it. I don't think we need that for anything else, so I will do that. And that's our second pallet going on here. I'm fairly convinced that should be enough, but obviously if it's not, we will have to head down to the store to pick up some more. We can leave the tractor here for now. Sling a strap on there. Doesn't seem to be wanting to go over these ones. I hope they'll stay on. But for now we are just gonna put the trailer in here, because it is time to head down to the dealership and make an investment. So we are here. We'll pull into a parking lot just for once at least. Head in and talk to them, because we're going to be talking to them about the kind of machines up on this poster here. So now we only have 13,800 left in the bank account. That's quite a bit less than we normally have, but we have bought a new and quite large tractor. I've mentioned a couple of times in episodes that we did want a new and larger machine that would be able to also cover groundwork in the future, and so this one will be able to help with harvest, but it's not really the primary purpose for buying a tractor this size. It is that I wanted to be able to run a fairly large subsoiler and a cultivator with a decent width, the Horse Joker, and this tractor, even without the upgrade, so it's the 4000 Syrian series here, fits the bill. Right now, we have just left it with basic tires and standard setup. We haven't even put a GPS unit on it right now. I'm hoping as we sell some milk and harvest comes in and everything like that, we'll be able to get those upgrades mounted on it, either by taking it down here or doing it up in our own workshop. But I thought it would be good, since we are going to be running a little bit tight for tractors and machinery during harvest time, it would be good to get this investment made and get this machine brought into our farm. It's a large tractor, 435 horsepower, so I think it's now gonna officially, I don't know if the 8R might be up in the same range, but it is basically, if not one of the largest tractors we have on the farm. The T7s are about 313 horsepower each. They do a mighty fine job on a lot of things, but with the extension, the additional field that we leased, and who knows whether we're gonna lease or buy some more fields if and when we can afford it, it is time to start scaling up the equipment a bit more. We've been kind of managing. We have been buying in, obviously, to handle grass and things like that, but groundwork has kind of been left at our old 5-meter cultivators, running 2 of those, and some of the field sizes here is frankly a challenge for running cultivators that size. Last year we were quite lucky with the weather. Everything kept fairly dry and manageable, but we can't necessarily rely on that, so it is important to be able to get fields covered a bit quicker. So we do have a problem now. Our first tractor shed is actually full, so the Zerion is going to be the first resident over here in the other shed. Right now this shed is used to keep that IT runner tray lane and these 2 cultivators. Frankly, these 2 cultivators don't need to sit inside a shed like this. So at some point we are going to be having a little bit of a yard shuffle as well. And although I'd like to keep it out and keep an eye on it all day long, we'll get in undercover. We want to look after our machinery. Obviously this is a brand new machine, and it's going to get pressed into some action pretty soon. But that is a nice new investment here for Eiersholt. So before we get too much further into this episode, I just wanted to show you the growth map here, so you can see that 15, 17, 32, 31, 53, they are all at the same growth stage. Then we got field 49, that's 1 step behind, and then field 29 is a further step behind again. 29 is the first growth step. 14, our potatoes, is 1 step behind as well. I hope that means that as we move into late summer, we should see most of these fields. If I switch over to crop type, so that's our canola, our oats, our wheat, and our barley, I'm hoping will be ready. So a large part of the standard grain harvest that will require baling as well, except for the canola, of course. Then later on we would have the corn and millet and potatoes, which are more specialized and or doesn't require baling work. So it'd be good if we could get started on things. And so for that very reason, although it's only 9:40 in the morning, the rest of today is basically just going to be filled with, I don't know, the standard type of chores that you do around the farm that you don't record. Painting fences, cutting the grass, maybe have a few folk over for barbecue later on or something like that. And I'll check back in the morning, because that will kind of determine what we're going to be doing for the rest of this episode. Well, it's early morning. In fact, it's only about 3:30, and I'm already loading feed up for the cattle. Conditions have stayed good, and harvest is a go. So we got a lot of preparation to do. As soon as I just finish making sure the animals have been fed, it'll be time to get the gear out. And it's warm enough. It's 17 degrees even here, almost in the middle of the night. So dew's not really going to be a problem for us. We can get started. It's a little bit overcast, but forecast should be for dry weather at least until now. So I'll see you in a little bit once I've finished topping up the animals. So we're coming up to 4 o'clock in the morning, and although it's still a bit dark here on the farm, we are going to get cracking on some preparation. The main part of the harvest will be the next episode, or maybe even 2, depending on how it goes here on Eiersholt. But in this episode, we are going to get ourselves prepared and probably just get the combines out and started on the first 2 fields, because there's quite a lot of stuff to get set up here. So we got our hook lift truck. We want to get the trailer as well. We might as well bring it up to the shed where we're keeping the bins for the grain, so that we can get that setup completed. First of all, get everything connected up. Just enough clearance to get it on, but it works. That's our second bin coming on, so we now have a good setup for hauling grain. We'll be bringing everything down to near the farmhouse to begin with, part because we want to see what we got for our full harvest setup, and in part because we are going to be working to begin with on that side of the farm. So it's a bit dark to see while we get them loaded up, but as you can see, we now got a pretty high capacity volume here for shifting our grain. To begin with, we're working relatively close to the farm, so it's not a big issue, but we will still be running our chaser bin, just so we can have a truck moving back and forth instead. So we're basically bringing everything down. It's just a little bit of a show and tell when we get some daylight, so we can see the full harvest setup before we get going. So we've got the rigid axle trailer sitting in here in this fairly empty shed. Actually, there's plenty of space around in this farm still, but now that we're starting to scale up on equipment, that might not last long. Daylight is starting to find its way through now, so by the time we got everything ready and hooked up here, we should be able to see a little bit clearer what it is that's actually going on here. Last year we bought this and I was absolutely ecstatic because it was so much bigger than what we had before. Now behind this tractor it suddenly doesn't look so big. We are almost there. And so here we have it. The harvest crew for year 2 on Eiersholt is gathered in the yard. Everybody's inside getting their breakfast. They know they are going to be working hard over the coming days and weeks, getting the harvest secured. After all, harvest is a very significant part of running Eiersholt. Although we have a lot of animals, harvest is in part to be able to feed those animals, and in part to bring in additional income to keep the farm afloat and to keep growing. So I know this episode was a sort of a little bit shorter and not as much going on, but I thought we can do a quick walk through our harvest equipment, and then in not very long the next episode will be coming in where we get harvest actually on the go. So starting here at the front, obviously, we are going to use the John Deere 8R here, 8400R, to run our Deutz Big Master square baler. To pick up, we're going to be using the John Deere 6R. It's got a class front weight on, but it is still the 6250R here, slightly overpowered perhaps, to run the auto stacker. Now, one thing that actually isn't in this crowd in here in the yard is our telehandler. It's sitting over at the back. We'll be using that one, so we will auto stack out on the field up near an entrance. Then we will bring our MAN truck up with the flatbed and get the bales loaded onto there to come back to the farm and get loaded up in the shed. Alternatively, be taken out to the heating plant. So that's the baling side, which really comes after what we're going to be talking about next. We have now 2 combines. If you have been following the series, you'll know this. We got a C6, a slightly smaller combine that we actually bought after the other one here, the New Holland, lovely twin rotor CR10 with tracks on. The other one doesn't have tracks, so if we have particularly hilly field, we'll be using this one. But other than that, the CR10 will mainly be covering the largest fields, and sorry, it's a CR7, not a CR6, as I said before. The CR7 will be covering some of the smaller fields. Obviously, we have headers sitting at the back here. We got a large draper header for the CR10, and then a slightly smaller, more traditional header for the CR7. Finally, to transport all of this grain, see if I can squeeze my back in, we've got a truck, as we mentioned before, with our hook lift bins on. That gives us a shifting capacity of about 84,000 litres of grain in one trip. So that's quite significant. That is one field. We are going to be using the Zerion here, like I said, overkill, to run the Kinsey auger, to load into our MAN truck, so that we can keep operations moving at all times. To support the CR7, we are instead going to be using our 2 T7s here. They are each running 2 of the Agroliner trailers, 1 bogie on the back and 1 rigid axle on the front. So that gives them both a capacity of 42,000 litres, so a combined capacity of 84,000 litres for that field. So I don't think we're going to be challenged by our capacity to shift grain. We can keep these combines moving. Obviously, last year on Eiersholt, in the first year of the series here, we only ran 1 combine, and to begin with we had some challenges about keeping it moving at all times with grain and so forth. I think that should be more manageable, even though we double up on combines here. And that is what we're going to get into in the next episode. It's now coming up to 26. I think the guys are almost done with their breakfast. We're going to go over the details. I will show you on a map what the plan is. So, as you can see, a large amount of fields has now turned yellow. So, field 15 is our canola field, sitting just over on the other side of the village. We will get the CR10 over and start working on that one. That's one of the large fields. After that, the plan will be to try and shift the CR10 over into our least field 17 to move on oats. The CR7 will start right outside the farm in field 32, where we got wheat, not wheats. And if I just switch it to fruit types, we can see that's wheat sitting there in field 32. I'm going to shift back to the growth just so we can keep an eye on things. Field 31 is oat as well, and that's another good job for the CR7. Those are 2 of the smaller fields. And then we will see where we are time-wise. We also got barley down on field 53 to get harvested, but obviously we do have some time, so it's not like a mad rush. The weather forecast is looking pretty decent, and fields 49 with millet, 29 with corn, and 14 with potatoes are not going to come in till autumn time, or even later into autumn for the corn possibly. We'll see how that goes, although we've had a very warm summer where things seem to have grown very well, so as long as we don't get drought, we should be okay, although we are down in that range. So that is pretty much it for this slightly shorter, slightly more unusual episode, and a little bit of a show off of all the machinery here. In the next episode, we are really going to get going on harvest. It's going to be a busy time on Eiersholt. Right now, we're really low on money. I think it's the lowest we've been on money pretty much in the whole series. I prefer to be able to keep a little bit in reserve for if we need any spare supplies or anything while harvest is running on. But we wanted to get this machine in to assist because every tractor on Eiersholt is in this group. One is only shifting a header, granted, but that is the one we use for all of the yard duties back here on the farm. And every single other tractor is going to be moving as part of this harvest. So with a little view of our setup here, that is the end of preparations for harvest here on Eiersholt, and we better get cracking now. So thank you for watching this shorter little episode, and if you want to see more of the harvest, keep an eye out on the channel. It will be coming shortly. But for now, thank you very much from Overcord Gaming, and see you again soon.